Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you've been following along at all for the last couple of weeks, you'll know that we're right in the middle of a series that I'm calling How I Edit My Wedding Films, where I basically dive into the entire behind the scenes process of how I edit my films. And today we're diving into part 3 of that series, specifically talking about how to create a visually dynamic wedding film edit. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get at it. So we want to begin by talking about the need for getting good cinematography, basically the need for filming things well with your camera rather than trying to just fix things in the edit. I know I've talked a lot over the last couple of weeks about how audio is probably the most important piece of a wedding film, and I stand by that. But one of the things that is also immensely critical is getting your cinematography, getting your filming right in camera when you shoot it, so you're not trying to fix things and tweak things and create something in the edit. And so there's 3 quick tips I want to give you just about how to kind of level up your cinematography and make sure the actual video clips that you're capturing are the best they can be. The first is just to get things right in camera. Make sure you get your coloring right, your white balance right, your lighting right, your exposure right, because with video, it's a lot harder to tweak and edit footage than it is with like raw images. So make sure you spend the time, get the coloring right, get the white balance right, get the exposure right, get all that stuff right in camera so you don't have to try to tweak things in post. And the second tip on how to kind of like level up your cinematography is just to use a variety of focal lengths and camera perspectives. And what I mean by this is I shoot all my weddings basically with just me. I have one camera, myself, I don't use a second shooter or anything. And so I try really hard to make sure I'm swapping lenses, swapping focal lengths. So I'm shooting some stuff telephoto, some stuff super wide, some stuff more in a mid-range, shooting some drone photos, shooting some ultra close macro stuff, and just getting a bunch of different angles and perspectives of all the different things that are happening on the wedding day. Try to make sure you always arrive at the editing desk with a variety of camera angles, a variety of focal lengths. So it's not just one lens, one angle, one perspective, and a very kind of static feel to all the footage. And then my final tip for just kind of like making sure your cinematography is as good as it can be is just to look for ways to add in camera motion rather than just having your subjects moving. It's super easy to kind of like hold your camera steady, put it on a tripod, put it on a monopod, and not really move the camera at all. But I find that my edits become so much more visually compelling when I'm actually moving the camera, whether that's kind of like just leaning forward and backward and panning in and out a little bit like that, whether that's actually kind of sliding the camera from left to right or from right to left. Adding some in-camera motion can really help level up your cinematography. And one of the really fun tricks with this is to actually match your motion from clip to clip. So say I'm shooting a first look, I might kind of move the camera with my body from left to right, stop the clip, and then start the next clip and do the same thing over again in the same direction, so that when I get to the editing desk, I can actually go in and splice those 2 clips together and have a clip that's kind of consistently moving from left to right. Just makes your cinematography a lot more intentional, makes your work feel so much more dynamic and much more visually compelling. So anyway, that's just a few things on the cinematography, and obviously that's not specifically how you edit things. So we're gonna turn to the computer and jump into all that now. All right, so let's get into the meat of everything now and specifically start talking about how I actually edit the visuals of these films, and specifically those 3 tips on how to create more visually dynamic wedding films. And the first tip is kind of back to an organizational thing. Begin your edit by creating a storyboard of where your edit's gonna go. And what I mean by this, I'll just kind of show you what I have here on my computer. So I make one of these storyboards for every single one of my wedding films. You can see all these films here in Apple Notes. And basically what this is, it has 2 kind of components to it. So first off, I will go through and I will list all of the footage items that I have, all the different video clips that I have, kind of lay those out by scene, and then give myself a note of how many clips I have per scene. And so if you look here, I have like 58 getting ready clips, I have 7 father-daughter reveal clips, I have 8 clips during the transition to the first look, 97 clips at the first look, all the way through to like the reception. This just kind of helps let me visually break down the wedding film and see where I'm gonna have the majority of my clips coming from, what areas of the film I might just kind of use like in passing as a quick transitional moment. Also in Premiere, I will organize all these clips kind of chronologically as you look through my footage. And then I will go in and listen to the audio that I've already laid out. We talked about that last week and kind of how I lay out all of my narrative with all the vows, everything, put all the music in without any visuals, just have an entire audio of what the film is going to sound like. I'll go through and listen to that entire storyboard and start making markers on times of which chapters I want to have where. Super helpful to kind of start, keep things organized, and create this storyboard. All right, so then once you have a storyboard, we actually get to kind of jump into actually creating the edit. And so the first thing I always do when I jump into the actual edit of a film is I take the first 15 to 30 seconds of a wedding film and turn it into like a little mini teaser film. Again, I've said this before, but my films, I edit all of those chronologically. So we start with getting ready in details and we work all the way through to the sunset clips at the end of the day. But I want the film to start with more of a recap to kind of show you what's coming. So all of my films start with this like 15 to 30 second long kind of intro title sequence where you see some details, you see some shots of the couple so you know who's actually in the film, you see some of the location, you see some of the details. That first kind of 30 seconds just serves to help, you know, immerse the viewer in the experience of the film and really set a mood for how the film's going to feel. Is it going to be super gritty? Is it going to be like ethereal and romantic? And then as an editor, this is super helpful for me because up until this point, I've had no actual video clips on the sequence at all. And so to actually be able to start putting some stuff together and go, all right, here's kind of how I want this film to feel. Here's how I want the vibe to be. This really helps set the stage for all these new scenes and chapters that I have to do with. If I kind of know, here's the vibe I'm kind of going for in this film, here's how it's going to play out. This is the opening 15 seconds for Marissa and Max's film. You can kind of see like we're starting with some locations set up. It shows a little bit of who they are, a little bit more of the locations, and just kind of like hopping back and forth between the different venues that they had. And then shows, all right, we're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and let's dive into the details.
So it was 2017, and I had Justin.
And so then my third tip on how to create a visually dynamic wedding film edit is to edit a dynamic roller coaster into your storytelling. And what I mean by that is if you think of any kind of plot, you have like this tension and then release in a good plot. And while a wedding hopefully doesn't have a ton of tension or like sadness, what it does have is build-ups to big events within the day. So like the first look, the first kiss, the first dance, open dancing. There's a lot of these moments where some big event happens in the wedding film. And if you can build up to that event, it creates these rises and falls throughout the film that will keep people engaged, it'll keep people invested in what's happening. If you've seen any of my films, you kind of know I edit all of my films like this, where you have this rising, falling all the way through the film. I don't want to create films that are just beautiful. I want to create films that are meaningful. And one of the ways that you're able to create meaningful content is by creating a film that people actually want to watch. And so if people actually want to watch it, they're going to invest in that and then be immersed in the storyline that you're actually editing and telling. And that just makes a film that's so much better. And obviously all this builds from the music. So again, watch last week's video, take the time to get the music right. And there are some times when like I'll get into the edit and I'll be like, man, I need to have a massive cinematic swell here, and this song just doesn't do it. I wasn't anticipating that when I was doing the music, and I have to go in, cut that part of the song, add something else in there. So there's definitely those times that happen, but as much as you can kind of work your way through things, give yourself the space to make mistakes and get things wrong and go in and tweak it and make it right, your film will be so much better. And then just one quick kind of like pro tip on actually operating Premiere. I mentioned how I organize all of my footage here chronologically. I don't go through and like call out all of my clips and like delete things. Every once in a while, if there's a clip that's just terrible, I'll just delete it from my project. But what I will do is I'll go in, like open up a clip and go, all right, I want to use just kind of these ending couple seconds here, and I'll mark like an in point with the I key in Premiere, and then like an out point with the O key in Premiere. And then what I'll do is when I actually want to drag that clip into the sequence, I'll just click this little film strip here, which grabs just the visual component of that clip, and it'll drag that onto the timeline rather than also dragging the audio. Typically, I already have the audio taken care of, and so all I'm doing is dragging the visuals in. And so if I can just kind of go in, set an in point, set an out point, and then grab just the visual component, drag that onto the sequence, it just makes the entire process go so much more smoothly. And that does it. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If this has been helpful for you, feel free to drop a like on that. And if you're interested in learning how I kind of spice things up visually, like adding visual effects and different plugins that I use, go ahead and make sure you are subscribed so that you see my video next week where I specifically talk about adding visual effects and those kind of extra fun, spicy components to the wedding film. All right, that's it. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys next week.